Hello everyone. Glad to have you here. If this is your first time, don't forget to subscribe. It helps me bring you more stories like this. Now get comfortable. It's time to dive into the story Arizona Zombie Outbreak, Prison Guard Survival Story. Now let's get started. I'm writing this from the catwalk of Tower 3. 2 weeks after the morning, the prison changed its name to the end of the world, and I need to put it down while the edges are still sharp, while the smell of bleach and smoke still rides the wind off the Arizona flats. My name is Warden Thomas Briggs, Red Mesa State Correctional, population 2,000 on a normal Thursday, fewer now, far fewer. I have walked these tiers for 14 years, learned every dead zone on the yard cams, every rattle in the gate motors, every squeak in the chow line rollers. None of that prepared me for October 13th to 6:42 a.m. intake bus. The desert was a sheet of tin under a white sky. Wind pushing grit against the Sallyport doors. Routine was routine. Count at 6, chow at 6:15. Med pass rolling at 6:30. Intake team staged for new arrivals at 6:40. I was on the perimeter walk with Officer Kelly. Compact, steady, the kind of CO who keeps her voice level when everyone else is burning. We were watching the bus nose through the external gate. State Seal sun faded, muffler coughing, driver waving to tower. One like this was just another day. Nurse Lydia was waiting at the medical cage, sleeves rolled, hair tied back, eyes already tracking vitals we had not taken yet. Inside booking, Troy Ellis stood behind yellow tape with the other fresh fish. 22 years old. Shoplift gone wrong that spiraled into a robbery charge, trying hard to stare at the floor the way old-timers told him to across the hall. Hector Ramirez leaned on the bars of C-Block Lifery Yard Diplomat when it suited him, shark the rest of the time. He watched intake like a man-CT. Weather. 6:42. The bus door folded open. Heat rolled out with the stink of sweat and diesel. First 2 inmates shuffled down the stairs in cuffs and chains. Then the third missed a step and folded at the bottom. No hands to catch himself, head bounced on concrete. The sound cracked along the walls like a hammer on pipe. Lydia was already moving with a reflex born of ugly nights. I followed. Kelly keyed the gate so we could enter the Sallyport. Ramirez called something from his tear that I could not hear over the bus idle. I told myself this was simple. Fainting, dehydration, desert sickness. I have seen men drop in July and scream like children. Lydia checked the airway, chest, pupils, pulse. She looked up, shook her head. The kind of look we all learned not to say out loud. We started the sheet. Time of death, 6:44. Driver insisting the man had been cough sick since Tucson. I logged it because the book has to be right, even when the world is wrong. 2 details bothered me, the color of his lips wrong, the way his fingers twitched against steel like a moth batting at glass. And the yard too quiet, even the lifers held their breath. A siren moan somewhere far downstate. Then cut off. Radio traffic was light, county dispatch repeating standby advisories with the clipped rhythm of a metronome losing time. We were lifting the body to a gurney when his eyes snapped open, clouded, unfocused, but locked on Lydia like a scope-finding glare. His chest hitched, no breath, only a sound like air leaking from a cracked valve. He came up as if pulled by wires, chain-dragging, and his mouth found the nearest warm thing. Officer Dejeuner Park, forearm bared, and, in one raking bite, he took a piece the size of a wallet. The world went small, whistle shriek, cuffs clattering. Kelly drove her baton into the base of the skull. I slammed the Sallyport alarm. Tower klaxons answered. Gate D. Started to drop. Park stared at his arm and said my name once, soft, like asking me to deny physics. By 6:47, the bus engine was still idling, the dead man was not dead, and Red Mesa had stepped off the map of procedure into the place where procedure becomes prayer. 6:48 a.m. Alarms punched holes in the desert silence. Klaxons sprang across razor wire and watchtowers. Somewhere out in the flats, coyotes scattered. Inside the Sally Port, it was all metal. Echoes, chains scraping, boots hammering, shouts ricocheting off concrete. The inmate, who should have been a corpse, was on his feet, cuffs rattling, mouth dripping red. Park staggered back, blood blooming down his sleeve like a fast spill of ink. Kelly shoved herself between them, baton snapping across the inmate's jaw, his head wrenched sideways, bone cracked, yet he kept coming. Empty eyes locked on the next breath of life in the room. Lydia dragged Park toward the med cage, her voice low, tight, already professional triage mode. Pressure here. Keep him conscious. She looked up at me once, pupils wide, asking a question without asking. Was this rabies synthetic? Something worse? I had no answer. I keyed the radio, voice steady, because command has to sound steady even when nothing is. Tower 1, seal exterior gate. Repeat, seal exterior gate. Medical emergency in Sallyport. Contained bus until cleared. Static. Then a clipped copy that sounded smaller than I wanted. The bus driver was out of his seat, eyes wide. These guys were sick, all the way from Puma. Coughing, burning up. 2 died on the road. Doc said, "Keep rolling. Deliver them to Red Mesa." His voice cracked on deliver, like he had just realized what the word meant. 2 more inmates at the back of the bus started thrashing against their chains, muffled shouts through spit and blood. The other transfers pressed away from them, metal clinking like 100 coins rattling in one jar. A panic wave ran down the bus, men clawing to get distance with no distance to get. I ordered Kelly to hold the door, called for emergency keys. But before we could move, the first corpse lunged again, even with his neck bent at a wrong angle. Momentum carried him into Officer Grant. They went down hard, cuffs flailing like hooks. Grant screamed once, then gurgled. Kelly didn't hesitate. Shotgun up from her sling. Blast detonated inside concrete like a thunderclap. Pellets shredded the inmate's skull. Bone and gristle painting the wall. For 1/2 second, silence returned. Then the bus erupted, every prisoner screaming, shoving, chains clanging. 2 of them fell underfoot and didn't get up again. "Get that door shut," I barked. Kelly slammed the lever. Steel groaned down between us and the bus interior, cutting sight lines but not the sound. Fists hammered the other side, rhythmic, desperate, inhuman, mixture of pleas and moans that blurred together till you couldn't tell which was which. 6:52 a.m. Park's vitals were dropping fast. Lydia swore, pressed harder, blood soaking through her scrubs. "He needs a tourniquet now or he's gone." Ramirez's voice floated from C-block, calm, steady, predatory. "He's gone already, Warden. Look at the arm, look at the color." Inmate or not, he wasn't wrong. I keyed the main channel again. All units, medical contamination possible. Initiate lockdown protocol, Delta repeat, Delta full perimeter seal. No movement without command clearance. The words tasted wrong. Delta was reserved for riots, terror threats, never sickness, but the book didn't have a code for the dead getting up. Through reinforced glass, I saw more shapes, stirring on the bus floor. Men who had been still seconds ago, rolling, jerking, then standing, chains scraping, their eyes pale and lost. One pressed his face against the glass, teeth working, smearing blood in wide arcs. Outside the yard fell into disorder, towers swiveling, searchlights stabbing at nothing in the daylight, inmates and other blocks shouting questions, banging on bars, no answers coming. The hum of the desert had changed. Too much metal, too much fear. At 6:55 a.m. I knew Red Mesa had become a crucible. disease or curse. It didn't matter. What mattered was 2,000 men behind walls with fear in their throats and something inhuman locked inside with us. 6:58 a.m. Radio chatter broke like glass across the net. Snippets, half-sentences, guards shouting over noise. South block disturbance, then static. Chow Hall lockdown, won't stay down, cut short by a scream that rose and chopped off. Each fragment piled weight on my chest. The pattern was already clear. Inside the Sallyport, Lydia had both hands buried in gauze and pressure dressings. Park skin grey, pulse weak. His lips moved around words I couldn't hear. Kelly kept eyes on the steel door, shotgun braced. The bus rocked with chains and moans. Something in there hitting the walls again and again like a battering ram of flesh. 70 a.m. yard count already off. I looked at the monitors along the control wall. Grainy cameras showing tiers and corridors in B block. A prisoner had collapsed during chow line. 2 guards knelt to assist. Then he jerked upright, grabbed one by the throat. The guard went down in a tangle of spilled trays. The camera fizzed with static as men bolted in every direction. The image returned just in time to show the fallen guard twitch and stand, mouth yawning open, eyes empty. Lydia's voice cut through. "Warden, this isn't trauma. It's transmission. Saliva, blood. Maybe both." She didn't stop working on part, but her hands were trembling. "We're not dealing with fever. We're dealing with something that rewrites the body." Ramirez laughed once, dry from behind bars. "Told you he's gone already. You just don't want to sign it yet." 7:05 a.m. Park seized, back arched. Lydia shouted for space. Then he went still, silence. Kelly exhaled, then his eyes fluttered. Not the way of a man waking, but the way of a shutter clicking open on an empty room. His arm jerked against Lydia's grip, mouth snapping. She screamed and stumbled back. I was already pulling my sidearm, but Kelly was faster. Muzzle flash bloomed in the small space. Shot punched Park off the gurney and into the wall. Lydia's hands were shaking, blood speckling her glasses. "We can't keep them alive. Anyone bitten, anyone scratched, it spreads in minutes." I wanted to argue. Command manuals drilled compassion, but the monitors kept showing me truth. 7:10 o'clock a.m., a block tier cam. An inmate screaming while 2 others pinned him. Then all 3 thrashing, gnawing, eared cam, figures slamming against chain link like waves against pier pilings, guards climbing towers, rifles spitting. Yet the shapes below kept rising, kept pressing. Kelly's jaw was locked tight. Orders. Her knuckles white on the shotgun stock. Lydia whispered, "Quarantine now." Ike keyed radio override. "All units, Red Mesa, under full biological lockdown. Bite wounds lethal and contagious. Quarantine any exposed staff or inmates. No exceptions. Repeat. No exceptions." Staticist back. Then a broken reply from Chow Hall. "Too late. Half of them are." The voice cut off in ragged shrieks. Ramirez pressed close to his bars, his grin pale under fluorescent hum. "Looks like the whole house of bricks just cracked open. Warden, your rules won't hold now. You'll need new ones, maybe mine." 7:15 a.m. 3 inmates on the bus smashed their foreheads into the glass until skins split, chains rattling like snakes. Behind me, Lydia was scrubbing her arms, muttering fever times, incubation times. Kelly kept her stance, eyes flicking between me and the door, waiting for a call that would mark the line between law and survival. And I knew whatever this was, plague, curse, weapon, it had already outgrown the Sallyport. The infection was loose in Red Mesa, and the clock had only just started. 7:20 a.m. Klaxons rolled across the yard like thunder trapped in steel drums. The big gates were grinding down, outer perimeter sealing inch by inch. Dust clouds rising as the desert wind caught siren wails and smeared them across the flats. From the catwalks I could see movement on every block, prisoners at the bars, guards running, men pointing, some praying, some laughing. Confusion was gasoline. Fear was the spark. Control screens showed the open yard. At least 100 inmates had been out for early chow or work detail. By the time the sirens hit, they were already scattering. Some to the fences, some to the gym doors, others huddled in packs like cattle before a storm. Then the first infected crashed among them, eyes blank, mouth gnashing. I watched one man take a bite to the throat and spray crimson before falling, watched him twitch, watched him rise again in less than 2 minutes. Kelly swore under her breath. That's it. It's everywhere. Lydia was whispering incubation estimates. 30 minutes, 20, 10. No pattern, just inevitability. Ramirez pressed his forehead to the bars. Calm as Sunday Mass. You can't cage it, Warden. Not anymore. But you can decide who gets fed to it first. 7:25 a.m. Command protocol said protect staff first, then civilian contractors, then inmates last. But I had 2,000 souls in my custody, oath signed, law sworn. The yard gate could still be opened. I could let the scattered groups rush back inside, yet every second one of them might be carrying infection in their veins. If I sealed them out, I'd be condemning dozens, maybe hundreds, to be torn apart by the ones already turning. I stared at the toggle. Green for open, red for sealed. My thumb hovered. Kelly read my hesitation. If you let them in, we're done. One scratch inside and we lose the blocks. You know it, Lydia's voice softer. But if we don't, we're choosing who dies. The radio erupted, Warden Yard inmates at Westgate pounding, begging, "What are your orders?" Behind the voice I heard fists on steel, men screaming for mothers, children's names tattooed on voices that knew they wouldn't be heard. 7:28 a.m. I made the call. Seal it. My voice cracked once, then hardened. All units, yard remains locked. Do not open exterior gates under any circumstance. Repeat, under no circumstance. The monitor showed it play out. 20 men at the west gate clawing at the bars, faces pressed through mesh, some infected already, teeth snapping, the rest still human, still pleading. Then the tide hit them from behind, the newly risen crashing into the crowd, bodies folding like paper and wind. Sound cut out as if Mercy had pulled the plug. Only the visual left, mouths open, eyes wide, one wave rolling over another. Ramirez laughed once, hollow. Mercy makes poor security, Warden. Good to see you learning. Kelly flinched at his tone, but didn't argue. Lydia stared at her bloody gloves, whispering names I couldn't hear. 7:30 a.m. Silence on the yard now, except for shuffling. Infected moving without hurry, like they had all the time in the world. And maybe they did. Inside the walls the decision rippled. Word spread that the warden had left men outside. Fear curdled into anger. Fists hammered on bars, voices chanting curses. For some inmates, law had finally bared its teeth. For others it meant opportunity. And I knew this was only the first choice. Every next one would carve us down further. Until Red Mesa wasn't a prison anymore, it was a scale where every ounce of survival cost someone else's life. 7:40 a.m. We tried to turn procedure into armor. Lydia demanded quarantine zones, North Supply Cage and infirmary sealed off with chain bolts. Anyone bitten or scratched when in food and water slid through slots, observation, through reinforced glass. It was clinical, logical, but in practice it meant leading men to cells that might as well have been coffins. The first guard we quarantined was a rookie named Diaz, 19. Still had acne scars under his helmet, bitten across the calf during Chow Hall's scramble. He swore it was shallow, swore he could walk it off. Kelly carried him by the shoulders, forced him through the cage door. His screams echoed even after the bolts dropped. "I'm not sick. I'm not sick. Please." By 8:05, the screams had stopped. By 8:10, he was back on his feet, eyes pale, hands clawing at the bars until his knuckles split. Word spread faster than fire. Quarantine means execution. Inmates bellowed from their tears. Guards muttered in corners, trust bleeding away. Lydia's face was pale but set. "It's infection, not injury. Keep hiding bites and we're finished." Her warning came true before the hour was out. Officer Grant, the one slammed by the intake corpse, insisted he'd only been bruised, wrapped his sleeve high, and kept working. At 8:20, while we were repositioning barricades at DB Block, he dropped his radio. Hands trembling, Kelly reached for him. He snapped upright, mouth tearing at her shoulder. I drew sidearm, fired once. Grant fell, but Kelly stumbled back, blood soaking her vest. She bit down on a scream, not deep, just a scrape. But everyone had seen what happened to Diaz. The room froze. Every survivor staring at her, silence thicker than concrete. Ramirez's voice slid in like a knife. "Quarantine her warden. You set the rule. No exceptions." His grin stretched, testing how far I'd bend. Kelly looked at me steady, eyes blazing with fury and fear. "Don't you dare! I'm not like them. I'm still here. I can fight." My pulse thundered. Lydia whispered, "She needs to be isolated. Even scratches transmit. You saw it." Ramirez leaned on bars. "Make the call, Warden. Show them if your rules cut both ways." 8:25 a.m. I couldn't speak. I looked at Kelly partner, best officer I had. She held my gaze, then snarled, "Fine, then I'll prove it myself." She slung shotgun, marched into the quarantine cage, slammed it shut behind her, voice carrying down the corridor. "If I turn, you'll know. Until then, I'm still your best chance." The men muttered, some nodding at her courage, others whispering that I had betrayed my own. Ramirez chuckled low. "Even your own don't trust you, Warden. Watch how fast the cracks spread." Meanwhile, Troy, the new fish, was hunched near the wall, trembling, eyes wide. "We're trapped, all of us. The gangs will use this. They'll tear us apart before those things do." He was young, green, but not wrong. Already, rival shot callers were shouting across tiers, offers of weapons, threats of revenge. 8:30 a.m. We had fewer guards than when dawn broke, prisoners watching every move for weakness, an infection that didn't care if you wore grey uniform or orange jumpsuit. Lydia logged each case, handwriting jagged. I walked the tear with pistol heavy at my hip, radio dead with static. Outside the sun rose higher, turning desert sky into white fire, and inside red me of the temperature climbed with it. Quarantine had been meant to buy us time. Instead, it taught everyone that no one was safe, and that sometimes the warden's orders cut into his own flesh. 8:45 a.m. Heat shimmered through the corridor, air so thick it tasted like copper. The infected had found rhythm, pounding fists on steel, groans echoing like a war drum. DB block doors shook in their frames. Weld seemed shrieking. The barricades we'd shoved into place were meant for riots, not for dead men who never tired. Vince, one of Ramirez's lieutenants, pressed his face to the bars. "They're going to pour through like floodwater, and you ain't got enough bullets to sandbag that tide, Warden." Ramirez leaned back, smiling. "Unless you open the armory and cut us in." Kelly's absence was a hole in my command, her cage silent. Lydia knelt by radios, rewiring scraps, muttering prayers under breath. Troy hugged the wall near me, eyes darting, young soft, yet listening sharp. At 8:55, the breach came. Hinges sheared. DB block gate lurched inward. First infected stumbled through, prison blues torn, eyes blind yet hungry. Behind him came more. Fighting. Each shoving the others forward. Crowd physics again, an avalanche of teeth and nails. Hold the line, I barked. Shotgun bucked. First head shattered, body folded, second staggered. Lydia screamed as blood sprayed across her scrubs. Guards opened fire down the tear. Echoes so loud they rattled teeth. Smoke curled. Bodies fell, but every gap filled with more staggering figures. One infected, skin pale, still wearing CO badge. Grant slammed through the barricade, jaw hanging loose, hand reaching for me. Troy froze, then lunged, swinging a metal tray like a bat. Skull cracked. Creature reeled back. Troy's voice cracked. They were people! What the hell are we doing? I yanked him behind cover. They're not people anymore. They're the flood. We're the dam. But the dam was breaking. Ammo belts dwindled. Guards reloading with shaking hands. Ramirez whistled sharp. His crew at the bars hollering, "Let us out, give us steel, well fight." His grin was cruel, but calculating. "You need soldiers, Warden." I got M. 9:95 a.m. I hesitated, finger hovering over keys. If I armed them, I'd lose order. If I didn't, we'd lose the block. Kelly's voice from quarantine cut through static. Weak but steady. "Do it, Briggs. Pride won't hold that door. Numbers will." My gut twisted. I unlocked Ramirez's tear. Chains fell, steel clanged, and wolves stepped free. Ramirez snatched a fallen guard's baton, spun it like a relic. "All right, hermanos, new rules. Dead men outnumber us, so we kill him first, then we talk turf." Chaos ignited. Guards and inmates shoulder to shoulder, firing, swinging, slamming infected back through breach. For 10 minutes, Red Mesa was a battlefield. Screams, gunfire, bones snapping, blood ran down steps, smoke burned eyes. By 9:15, the breach was sealed with corpses piled waist-high, smouldering under shell casings. Survivors slumped against walls, breathing ragged, eyes hollow. Ramirez wiped gore from his arms, looked at me. "See, Warden, we fight together, we live together. Maybe time you rethink who runs this place." I met his gaze. Sweat, stinging cuts across my face. He wasn't wrong, but every alliance with him was a noose waiting to tighten. Outside, desert, sun blazed. Inside, we'd won a battle, but seated a piece of the prison's soul. 9:30 a.m. Smoke still clung to the rafters. Shell casings glittered across concrete like brass confetti. Blood slicked the stairs. The stench was copper and rot. We'd held the breach, but in winning, we had opened another war. Ramirez paced free now, like a wolf tasting open ground after years in a cage. His lieutenant stood loose, arms crossed, watching guards reload with trembling hands. He wasn't attacking, not yet. But the balance had shifted. "You saw it, Briggs." His voice carried across the tears, smooth, confident. "Without us, you'd be meat on the floor. We bled, same as you. We earned our cut." Frank, the last senior officer still standing, spat blood on the floor. "You're cut. You're still inmates, murderers, gang bosses. You'll get nothing but chains once this is done." Ramirez grinned. "Slow predatory chains. Take a look around. Jeef steel's rusting. Keys mean nothing. Out there it's the dead, and here it's whoever's left breathing." The guards stiffened, fingers twitching near triggers. Tension was a bowstring stretched too tight. One wrong word and the shaft would fly. Then Troy spoke quiet raw. "If we start fighting each other, we're finished. I just watched 100 of those things tear through DB block." "You think sides matter to them?" All eyes swung to him. The rookie, barely old enough to shave, sounding older than the desert. Ramirez tilted his head, studying him like a hawk. "Smart kid, maybe wasted in orange." 9:40 a.m. Lydia stepped forward, blood still on her scrubs, voice steady. Listened to him. "Infection doesn't care if you wear grey or orange. If we don't work together, none of us last the day." Silence followed. Only sound was the shuffle of bodies moving in lower tiers. More infected pressed against bars, drawn by gunfire's echo. They weren't done, not by half. I looked at Ramirez. His grin never faltered. "Temporary truce," I said, the words burning my tongue. "You and your men fight under our command structure. We clear the blocks together. Afterward, we settle what comes next." He extended his bloody hand, palm scarred with years of knife fights. "Deal, Warden. But remember, paper rules burned with the old world. Out here, only blood rights law." I shook it because I had to, but every instinct screamed that I just signed away something I couldn't reclaim. 9:50 a.m. We regrouped in the control office. Guards on one side, Ramirez's crew opposite, like wolves sharing a den. Troy hovering between, unsure where he belonged. Plans scribbled on maps. Ammo divvy. Dead by head count. Water rationed in silence. For the moment we were one unit, a fragile thread holding back a flood. Outside, sun hammered the yard. Inside Red Mesa, the alliance tasted like ash. But for the first time since dawn, we had enough hands to fight back. 9:55 a.m. From the quarantine cage, Kelly's voice drifted weak but sharp. "Don't trust him, Briggs. He's already counting the minutes till he cuts your throat." Ramirez just smiled. Didn't deny it. That smile promised blood. Later, once the dead were done with us. 10:30 a.m. Sunlight blazed white through the slit windows. Desert air rolling in hot and dry. But inside Red Mesa it was darker. Heavier smoke, dust, rot. We had plugged the DB block breach. Corpse barricades stacked like sandbags. Still the infected slammed it. Bodies thudding, bones snapping, groans climbing up steel like a hymn of hunger. By noon the alliance was already cracking. Guards watched Ramirez's crew with fingers tight on triggers. Inmates whispered in Spanish-coated glances, passing blades scavenged from kitchen and shop. Lydia scribbled charts of bite to turn over times, her voice clipped clinical, trying to keep everyone blind to the tension behind her. Troy followed me like a shadow, young, wide-eyed. He whispered when Ramirez was out of earshot. "He's not fighting for us, Warden. He's waiting for night. When we're tired, when ammo runs low, that's when he moves." Kid wasn't wrong. Ramirez's grin hadn't faltered since the deal. 11:15 a.m. Reports from C Block. Pounding, growing louder. Metal, groaning. The infected weren't learning, but they were massing, pushing each other into barricades until welds screamed. We rotated crews, guard, and inmate pairs side by side at choke points. Awkward, unnatural, yet every shotgun blast bought us another breath. Every shove held the line one more minute. By 200 p.m. the sun cooked the walls like Ove. Noz. Water rationing began. Sweat streaked every face. Some guards muttered about abandoning blocks, retreating to admin tower. Ramirez laughed. "Hide in your tower. You'll starve. You need the kitchen." Ramirez stretched on a bench, calm like the siege was his throne room. Troy whispered, "He's waiting. When the doors fall, he'll choose who dies first, and it won't be the dead." I looked out the shattered window at Springfield Desert burning, at thousands pressing closer, at fences collapsing like paper. Red Mesa was no longer a prison, it was a tomb standing tall in a graveyard that stretched to every horizon, and night had only just begun. 8:15 p.m. The tower shook like a drum under fists and skulls. Impact after impact, groans rolling through vents. The dead pressed against every wall, climbing stairs, slamming steel. Each door below us a fuse burning short. We had 50 souls crammed in 3 floors. Guards on the west wing, Ramirez's crew on the east, Lydia pale at a desk, hands trembling as she taped makeshift dressings to bleeding men. Troy sat beside her, passing water bottles, eyes wide but steady. Frank cornered me by the map table, voice low. "Horse, he's moving pieces, Briggs, watch him. He sends his boys to guard ammo kitchen water drums. By morning, we'll be begging him for rations." He was right already. Ramirez lounged near the supply cage, feet up, grin sharp. His men patrolled with stolen batons, shotguns slung careless, guards muttered, tension thick. 8:30 p.m., pounding grew louder below, infected bodies stacking against barricades, forming macabre ladders. One hand burst through a cracked door, fingers clawing, rammed back by rifle butt. Blood streaks marked every hinge. Then the lights died. Generator fuel gone. Tower drowned in dark. Only flashlights cutting narrow cones. Moans outside swelled, the dark emboldening them, banging, scraping, rising in chorus. Ramirez laughed soft in the gloom. "Listen to him. Hungry wolves, you think badges matter now. Only numbers do." "And I got more loyal hands than you do, Chief," Frank snapped. "Shut your mouth or I'll Rami." Rez's men rose, steel flashing. My pistol was up before I knew it. Muzzled between us, one spark, and we'd be killing each other while the dead poured in. 8:45 p.m. Lydia's voice cut the tension. "Quiet. You'll draw them faster." She held up her bloodied hands. "We don't have time for this. Every scream, every shot pulls more to us. You want to die fighting each other or fighting them?" Ramirez smirked but lowered his weapon. "Smart doc. Fine. But when your warden falls, don't say I didn't warn you." His men eased back, though their eyes stayed sharp. 9:02 p.m. The tower groaned. First floor barricade caved. Dead surged in. Gunfire erupted. Hallway lit by muzzle flash. Shadows ride. Screams sharp. We dragged furniture into stairwell, pushed bodies down, fired till barrels smoked. Blood slicked stairs. Infected tumbled. More climbing over corpses. They wouldn't stop. Never stop. By 9:20 p.m. we'd sealed second floor, barely, survivors panting, ammo half gone. The infected pounded below, climbing over piles of their own. Ramirez wiped gore from his cheek. "Look straight at me." "Face it, Briggs, you ain't leading anymore. Without me, you'd be dead already. Time you hand the crown to someone who knows how to wear it." Frank bristled, guards raising rifles. Ramirez's men mirrored, still glinting in between. The dead kept hammering, each thud a countdown. And I knew by dawn it wouldn't matter if infected got us first, because Ramirez would slit our throats just as easy. The soldier's voice cuts through the chaos, muffled behind his mask, but sharp with urgency. 3 minutes, move. We stumble forward, splashes of red water soaking our shoes. The stench of blood, burnt flesh and chemical flame is overwhelming. My throat seizes. I gag, but there's no time. Flamethrowers roar at the far end of the dock, casting everything in waves of orange. The infected swarm against the wall of fire, screeching, hurling themselves into the flames only to thrash and collapse. Others circle, searching for gaps. The soldiers keep them back for now. We weave between abandoned gurneys and crates toward the line of survivors funneling into a transport truck. A medic reaches for Sarah this way, but she freezes. Her gaze has locked on Lisa. I follow her eyes, and my stomach drops. Lisa stumbles just for a second, but it's enough to see the tear in her scrub pants. A bite mark glares raw and red on her calf, blood seeping through fabric. "No," Sarah whispers. "No, no, no." Lisa steadies herself, grips the four-pole like a staff. Her face is pale, her eyes already glossing. She sees the realization hit us. "Go," she says, voice steady, calm, even kind. "I'm already gone. Don't you dare." Sarah chokes on tears. Reaching for her, I grab her arm, hold her back. The grey is already blooming across Lisa's skin, veins branching like black lightning. Her hands tremble, but she forces herself upright. "Thank you," she tells us. Just that simple, final. Then she turns without hesitation and runs back toward the advancing infected. Her scream cuts the air, half battle cry, half farewell. She slams the pole into the first creature, then another, drawing them all to her. They swarm. Sarah shrieks, fighting my grip, but I don't let go. If she runs after Lisa, we lose both of them. Reynolds snarls, "Move," shoving us toward the truck. The soldier covering the rear lays down a wall of fire, flamethrowers spewing arcs that light the dock like a funeral pea. The air turns molten. Sprinklers hiss overhead, raining steam. We push Sarah into the truck, Reynolds and I scrambling in after. Hands drag us deeper inside. Other survivors crammed shoulder to shoulder, faces grey with ash and shock. Through the rear flap, I see Lisa one last time. She's on her knees, covered in them, arms flailing, mouth open in one final human scream. It warps mid-breath into something guttural animal. And the soldier seals the truck, shouting, "Go!" The engine roars, tires screech on wet concrete. The dock falls away behind us. Through the seams of the flap, I glimpse the inferno. Mercy General collapsing under its own burning skeleton. Explosions ripple upward, windows bursting into fireballs. The sky above Detroit glows hell red. Sarah clutches my hand with a grip that bruises. Her sobs rack against my chest, but I can't look at her. My eyes stay locked on the window of flame, shrinking in the distance. Lisa, Gloria, Dr. Walker, all of them, everyone we couldn't save. Reynolds sits across from me, jaw clenched, eyes dead. His hands are empty now. No gun, no rounds, nothing left. The soldier inside shouts over the roar of engines. Protocol Omega complete. The hospital is gone, but in my gut, I know this isn't the end. It's the beginning. The truck rattles across broken pavement, engine straining under weight it was never meant to carry. Inside it's silent, but for muffled sobs and the hiss of our soaked clothes dripping onto the metal floor. Every survivor looks the same. Eyes wide, pupils blown, bodies curled inward like they're bracing for another impact. I can still hear Lisa's last scream. Still see her swallowed in fire and claws. It clings to me like smoke. The soldier at the rear keeps his flamethrower primed, muzzle still glowing, ready. His mask hides his face, but his posture says it all. He's not convinced we're safe, not even here. We pass through a checkpoint. Searchlights sweep across the truck, soldiers and hazmat gear motioning us through razor wire barricades. Beyond the city burns. Detroit is unrecognizable. Streets glow with scattered fires. Sirens wail distant and broken. Helicopters hover low, their rotors whipping smoke into spirals. Through cracks in buildings, I see movement, figures darting too fast to be human. The military isn't saving the city. They're holding it down with fire and bullets, trying to cauterize a wound that's already gone septic. The truck jerks to a stop at a fortified facility, an old armory converted to a quarantine zone. Floodlights glare across high fences topped with barbed wire. Inside tents line the yard. Rows of survivors herded through like cattle. We're ordered out, hands up, no sudden moves. Soldiers with rifles escort us into a decontamination tent. Sprays of cold mist sting my skin. We strip, wash, dress in thin paper gowns. Our clothes, our last ties to who we were, burn in a metal barrel. Sarah clings to me through every step, her face pale, eyes rimmed red. Reynolds stands rigid, refusing to tremble, refusing to show weakness, but I see the twitch in his jaw, the tremor in his fists. We're funneled into a quarantine ward, a gymnasium lined with CS. Floodlights bleach everything in harsh white. Doctors in sealed suits take blood, swab our throats, scan our eyes. They don't tell us results. They don't need to. The way they watch us, the way their hands hover near panic buttons, says enough. I sit on a cot trying to write this down while I still can. Sarah sleeps fitfully beside me, jerking awake at every distant scream that filters in from outside the wire. Reynolds hasn't spoken in an hour. He just sits, staring at nothing. Hands still shaking from adrenaline that will never run out the way his bullets did. On the news feed, streaming across mounted TVs, they're calling it the Detroit event. They say it's contained, that the city is secure, that the threat is neutralized, but I know better. I saw the way the infection spread in minutes, not hours. I saw it turn chaos into hunting packs. I saw children twist into predators. Surgeons stalk their own halls with purpose in their eyes. This wasn't an outbreak, it was an awakening. The guards patrol constantly outside, rifles always ready, always watching. Not just the fences, us. Sometimes when the night is quiet, I swear I hear it again. The low growls, the shrieks, carried on the wind like echoes clawing their way closer. They tell us it's over, that we're safe now. But I've looked into those eyes, seen the hunger, the intelligence blooming inside. This isn't over. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams.